I've struggled a lot with creating stories where I'll dive into a project only to get far into it and realize the idea I started with just wasn't as solid as I thought. But at that point, I'm far too in to back out, so it becomes more of a dance to repair as much as I can just to get each project finished. Each of my previous short films has undergone a process like this where the lack of experimentation, the idea is just wrong in some way and it causes the project to not fail, but lose shape or form and not fulfill its truest potential. But recently, that has changed for me, where stories I'm in the middle of developing are having a very satisfying through and through. Here is how that happened. As a storyteller, you not only need to be able to create ideas, but do so in large quantity at the same time. One of the best pieces of advice is, which I've heard when it comes to developing a story, is to have a list of some 10 ideas and narrow down that list until you have your favorite one, the strongest story, which will carry the most weight. And in January, I tried to follow this advice. I came up with 3 ideas. Worse, they were just main ideas which I've had in my head for months at this point. So, in retrospect, they all kind of sucked as well. What I tend to do is think of a few certain stories at any given time and just constantly explore them in my head, but only ever really having 2 or 3 ideas which just recirculate. But that has changed. This makes it so much harder for me because when it is time to tell a story, I don't have good ideas, or at least ones worth telling, because it's just the same ideas in my mind on repeat. But all of this changed recently with a new addition to my storytelling catalog, one which really changed things forever. And here it is. This is my pocket notebook, and I take it everywhere I go. To school, to friends' houses. I once took it to a 30K race in the mountains overlooking the US-Mexico border. Now, its value may not seem intrinsically obvious, but trust me, its value to me as a storyteller is immeasurable. Mixing something like this with a smartphone and then a few extra bits and bobs, you have limitless creative potential for making new stories, and your creative potential will skyrocket, leaving you with better stories than ever. Since what we're talking about storytelling is subjective, just use everything I say as a jumping off point and transform my ideas into something that fits more with what you're comfortable with, your lifestyle, so you can reach your true storytelling creative potential and make your peak stories, because that's really what you should be achieving with this video. First of all, I'm someone highly inspired by what I see. And I know that all inspiration comes from reality, from experiences, but literally, I'm out doing something, I'm having a good time with friends or whatever, and I think, this would be a really dramatic scene in a movie. I should write that down. And I do. Most of my projects are inspired from things I just see in my day-to-day life. One example would be a few months back, I went to this state-level sports tournament, and I was walking by this soccer field, and I saw someone kick a ball, and there was this explosion of those tiny bits of rubber which are hidden inside the astroturf, and that cinematic moment eventually led to the creation of the Sokodai, the server, and the scorekeeper. And although that original idea of a soccer playing samurai just isn't in the final project, nor does it have anything to do with it, that idea, the final project, wouldn't come around without this, without seeing that. So it is essential that I have that idea in my brain. Look here in the concept art. You can see him wearing cleats around the neck, shin guards on the next place, cleats again, knee guards, and it's funny to see how this became the final project. Another example is that Chuck in SPIs wasn't really supposed to be a character. Originally, his role in the final scene, being the taxi driver, was the role of Morbius, where Morbius was going to go in and not kill, but like drug Jerome. That was what's supposed to happen, but I changed it to be more fun. And because I had a character design which looked really similar to Jerome, and I'm like, maybe they're cousins, and that just developed in my mind rapidly. And then, Am I a Hero is being completely rebooted to being about superheroes, to now being about the evolution of a friendship. But in order to have these changes, you need to be able to bring that original inspiration, that original idea which made you want to tell the story, and change that and connect it with your emotions so you still have something to guide you when the idea, the final product, that idea completely changes. There is a lot of ways you can achieve this, and for me, it comes through journaling. Every night, I journal about my day and write with honesty, however much I feel like writing. I also tend to meditate right before bed, which also helps me get in tune with how I'm feeling. But you only really need one or another, and you can either find other methods as well to help connect with your emotions. I'm going to need to blur this, because, again, like I said, it's real honest, real emotional. But, it's good to have something like this, and especially in other cases, let me go get it down right here. That's fine. Journaling is better case, at least in my opinion, with the video and what I'm trying to say, because like I did a few months ago, you can just reread it however many times you want, and just spot your unconscious patterns, feelings you have, which can help you with your stories. The short film that I'm writing, the short film that I'm currently writing, the new version of Am I a Hero, is highly inspired by what I read in this journal. I got really in tune with how I was feeling like a year, 2 years ago, which is really the time period that the story of my life, the story is based off my life. It took me about an hour, and I will say it was hard to get through because, just looking back on yourself, all your mistakes, it's hard. I needed to put on music just to get through it, but wow, it helped me so much with coming to terms with what I wanted to explore in this story, and I think the story is going to be so much more powerful for having this with me. And with this project being so intrinsically tied to my experiences, here we see the first use of the pocket notebook. Now, whenever I find an experience that I just had that feels like it has cinematic potential, just write it down. Now, there's a few different ways I write it down. Sometimes I just write down what happened, a brief overview, this happened, this happened, this happened. Sometimes I adapt the idea, I exaggerate it, I get rid of certain elements, change the context, but this core idea is still the same, and that's just so it's more fantastical. And other times I just make a whole plot, a whole story idea based on what happened, and that just really depends on how I'm feeling and how what happened made me feel and how I can use that and what I'm thinking of after it happens. But jotting down these moments which speak to you are key. One of the things which stuck out to me most when reading Richard Williams' An Animator Survival Kit was the part where he mentions that animation just exaggerates reality. Whether it's to make it faster or slower, it's there to make real life more beautiful, even if it's the most simplest scenes. And to me, these most simplest scenes are when it's just a conversation, a small talk, two friends bonding for the first time, sitting around a fire. These scenes, even if you may not remember them by the end of the day, if they mean anything to you in the moment, if you see that, like, wow, this is just cool, write it down and you will thank yourself for it because it really changes storytelling and makes it a lot more wholesome. It doesn't matter how unrealistic your story is. Think of Star Wars, space opera. But when it comes down to it, it's about the characters, and that's the core of any good story. And in that sense, the moments that carry human emotions are the ones which are going to be the most powerful. And so many times, a quiet, peaceful scene is the most impactful. At the start, it will be hard to just jot down ideas. One, because you're not comfortable doing it in public, and two, you just aren't thinking about it. But after a while, you will just start doing it, and by doing it more, you start doing it more. And wherever you are, the benefits of doing it are amazing. About a month back, I was on a 40-kilometer bike ride in the desert, and that day was just great for creating ideas. In the course of 5 minutes, I came up with 3 different story ideas only because I used my journal. By writing down ideas, it allows your brain to move on from that one idea and then develop another, and then another, and then another, because it has the free space, because there's no need to remember it because it's written down and you can revise it anytime you like. And that is the key to this journal. And from here, experiment. Go have fun. Reread your journal. See how you can change and mold your ideas and mix and match different aspects, the themes you're exploring. See if you can mix that with another story and try to make something better. Until you just have stories which are so strong that you need to make them into something more. Share them with other people. Just have fun with it. I remember about 2-3 weeks ago, I went out of town with a friend to this small, quaint, historic town. And we were walking the plaza. We stopped at this cafe, and he told me to pull out my journal and read him my ideas. And we were just riffing on how we could explore them in different mediums and stuff like that. And it was a really fun time. And just stuff like that is key. Final thing to supplement your creative journey is to take pictures. Just wherever you are, in cases where your expressive text is a bit too much, there's something pretty, just take a picture or take a video. Like, for example, that same trip where I went to the plaza, they were having a barbecue. The fire was just gorgeous. It was in this nice little brick oven. I took a video of it. Another time, I went on a camping trip with my friends. We had a fire. Again, I took a video of it. It really helps to solidify those ideas in your head with the more exaggerated stuff, and then something, a reference, which you can later exaggerate. Again, like pretty clouds is something I take pictures of all the times, or cool coastlines, because that stuff is really cool later on to go and change. Stuff that feels so unique. So to make it a part of your story is really cool. And from there, that's about it. Again, get a pocket notebook because it is going to make you so much happier as a storyteller. So yeah, do it.